Ahsoka Season 1 was an interesting departure from the normal Star Wars TV show, but now that it's over, there's some interesting things going on about what's next. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a different video. Star Wars is in a very different place than it has ever been in the history of Star Wars, really. We've had more content come out in the last year than anyone in the prequel era could ever have asked for. But we didn't get a Star Wars movie, and I think that is really impacting the thoughts and processes around Star Wars right now. Where Star Wars movies have always been these big, groundbreaking theater moments, it's now been simmered a little bit. It's not roaring hot like we've always been used to it, but also, whatever the next Star Wars movie is going to have to be impactful. The future of Star Wars as a thing relies on it. Disney relies on it. But we're not talking about Star Wars movies right now. We're talking about Ahsoka. And I think Ahsoka is a very good descriptor of the state of Star Wars in 2024. Yes, it's crazy to think it's 2024 already. Because when you look at Ahsoka, it has what you would expect from a Star Wars thing. It is one of the most Star Wars shows that we've gotten since Disney has taken over, except maybe The Mandalorian. But where The Mandalorian is old Star Wars, it's the original trilogy Star Wars. Ahsoka is new Star Wars. Now, new Star Wars not in terms of the sequel trilogy or anything like that. It's new Star Wars when you look at things like the first example of Disney Star Wars, which is Star Wars Rebels. It is this era of Star Wars. This era of Star Wars fans came from this. And Ahsoka goes back to what Rebels did so well and exploring that in a different way, but it kind of stumbles. Because Dave Filoni is very new to the style of live action, he makes some mistakes. He doesn't handle pacing very well. And that's something that, except for Andor, I would say you could put that on most things. If you look at Mandalorian Season 3, Obi Wan, Book of Boba Fett, the pacing of these shows isn't what you typically say because they don't handle them like normal TV shows. They are not quite full seasons, but they aren't quite miniseries, except for, of course, Obi Wan. So there's this example of Ahsoka where you have something that is more Star Wars than we've seen in quite some time. New Star Wars. And it's something that Dave Filoni is experimenting with. It's clearly setting up the foundation for the future of the Mandoverse. And now that the Mandoverse is just that, this universe inside of itself, almost inside of Star Wars, it's going to have to change. And it's going to need to change quickly. Because you can't have the thing that Ahsoka did again. You can't have the story end where it started. Because if you look at the whole story arc of Ahsoka Season 1, about nothing actually got accomplished. Thrawn is now on the other side of the galaxy wall, and Ahsoka and Sabine are not on that wall anymore. And when it started, it was the reverse. So they can't keep pushing the ball of actually telling good stories down the road. That's just not gonna fly if we're expected to see growth in Star Wars. But on top of that, yes, we had a cliffhanger in Season 2. They were left on the other side of the galaxy. Baylan Skoll did not have anything to do in the finale, even though he was supposed to be the focus of the season, and now Ray Stevenson isn't with us anymore, so that kind of puts a wrench into the plans of what was ultimately going to happen. And if we look at the state of Ahsoka Season 2, we don't even know if that's going to happen or what form the continuation of the story is going to be. And if that's not a clear example of the failings of Disney Star Wars right now, is they have a lot of good examples of good stories in Star Wars. Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 are fantastic. Andor is groundbreaking. It's one of, if not the best story told in Star Wars. Honestly, it is the best story told in Star Wars. While I love all of the movies, except Rise of Skywalker, Andor is a complete story. It knew exactly what it needed to say, it knew exactly what it needed to do, and it went through that with incredible pacing, incredible story development, incredible character development. And Ahsoka, there is no character development. Why is Ahsoka so different in her own show than she was in The Mandalorian? Honest question there. Let me know in the comments below. But when we look at the state of Star Wars, we don't have any long-term plans. If a Star Wars movie is announced right now, we don't know if it's going to actually come out. I think they've mostly worked the kinks out in terms of what's actually going to happen, what's actually going to get released, but there's still a lot of hesitance until these movies come out. I mean, the Lando show, for goodness sake, it was announced as a TV series and was announced as a certain director's project. And now that director is out of the picture entirely. And now the Glover brothers are taking over that project and pitching it as a movie. So it makes me question what is actually going to happen with Star Wars when it happens. And that might be some time. And we don't even know which Star Wars movie is going to be the first one. We have an idea that possibly the Rey movie is going to be the most applicable, but then there were rumors that Mandalorian Season 4 was going to be a movie, and that was going to be the first one. And then more recently, there was a different movie that was rumored to come out first, and then Taika Waititi's still doing his project, even though it was rumored that he wasn't doing his project, but he's still doing his project, and now Rogue Squadron's not a thing, and they're not going to work with her anymore, and there's such a state of disconnect and just unknowing that it's really interesting to see Star Wars as a fandom and as a icon and franchise really come into this new world. It is now sustained only by TV shows as we stand until that ultimate Star Wars movie comes out. And it's showing some of the cracks that they don't have everything together. They're trying to be the art house projects, but they're doing it in ways that just show the corporate side of things, when Star Wars was a project that was built on a political discussion to be had on the ideas of imperialism, the Viet Cong, the Vietnam Wars, and how these government agencies can have too much power that they ultimately need to be taken down. That is the original Star Wars movie, and that has gotten so far away. Yes, there needs to be stories about hope, but it needs to have this structure. And if you think Star Wars was never political, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's always been political. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this idea of Ahsoka being the perfect encapsulation of Star Wars in 2024 and Disney Star Wars. Would love to hear your thoughts on my little ramble of a video. I had a lot of thoughts that I want to get in, and let me know if I did that well. As always, check out our podcast, and may the Force be with you.